Recording. I recommend that you watch this recording here. Yeah. So she's talking about how the same young anyway, let's just watch it. Let's just watch it, okay?
The young women who mock and write off older women just because they're older are going to be the same women that are in their 40s and in their 50s that make younger women's life a living hell for no fucking reason other than the fact that they're jealous of them because the only calling card they ever had in their life was their youth. And they place so much value on their youth as if that shit was not going to pass inevitably if they're lucky. So those 25-year-olds who look at 45-year-olds and 55-year-olds and they dismiss them and write them off because they're older, those are going to be the fucking miserable 45-year-old and 55-year-olds. Those are going to be the moms who have weird relationships with their daughters. Those are going to be the women at work who, make younger women's life hell for no reason.
Okay, I want you to go watch this video, okay? Texas Garden Fairy. I want her to get all her views, so we're not going to finish this video, okay? Because I want you to go watch this video yourself. And if you look in the comment section, somebody here said, Gen Z are so openly ageist, it won't age well. And this is so true. This is something that I've noticed in so many Gen Z people. It's that they are afraid of aging. They are afraid of looking older. They are afraid of seeming older. They are afraid of being the older person. Which is so strange because when I was a little kid, I actually loved talking to older people. Because why? Because in my mind, when I was a kid, and I know this is not always true now, but I always thought that older people were wiser, they were smarter, they had more to share, they had more interesting conversations. So when I was older, I actually really enjoyed talking to older people when I was a kid. Sorry, when I was younger. Now I can still hold a conversation with an older person, but I'm I have a certain level of maturity, so I don't always assume that all older people are going to have that maturity. The maturity that I admired when I was a kid. And for me, I always thought that gray hair was beautiful. I always thought that, I always thought gray hair was beautiful. And I always thought that people who let their hair go white, I just thought it was beautiful. And the other day I was in the metro, I saw an elderly woman. She had gray hair, she had long braids, and she was stunning. She was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. And I mean beautiful. And I've seen, and there are models who are older. There are people who take care of themselves and they age well, they age gracefully, and they might have wrinkles, but they are gorgeous. And I think Gen Z is missing out on that. And that's why there are certain ways I don't relate to Gen Z, and there are certain ways I don't relate to millennials. And on this, I really can't relate with Gen Z on the fact that they are so afraid of aging. Like you could literally be just a few years older than them and they will think you're like 100 years old, which is kind of ridiculous. And it just speaks volumes on the fact that they're clinging on to their youth. Maybe they feel that's the only thing that they have, but me when I was younger, I didn't feel like youth was the only thing that I have. I didn't feel that way. I felt like I actually was excited to mature and to get older because I knew that it meant freedom, and I knew that it meant that I could do what I want. I knew it meant that I could travel, that I could whatever, right? I knew it meant that I can endless possibilities, right? Because when you're a child, there's certain responsibilities that you don't have, there's certain powers that you don't have, there's certain freedoms that you don't have. But as you age and you mature, hopefully you start to get freedoms, you start to get responsibilities, you start to have, your life becomes interesting. And I think when people look at aging in a horrible way, it's actually really sad. And I think this creator here, I think she's absolutely right. The people who are clinging on for their life to age, to their youth, I think these are the people that are going to age the worst. They're going to age the worst. They're going to age the worst because stress doesn't make you look good, honey. Uh, Stress doesn't make you look good. Worrying about, little things that don't matter. It's not going to age you well at the end of the day. So if you're so concerned about aging and you're so obsessed with your youth, actually, ironically, that could actually make you age worse, right? Some of the most beautiful elderly people are people who've had vibrant lives and who weren't so concerned about that. They had better things, right? They had a rich life. And I think that's more important than just saying I'm youthful. Because youth is one aspect of a person. It doesn't really signify anything. All it means is that you were on this planet less for less years. That's all it means. And for me, I mean, why not try to have a world record, right? Like, why not try to reach for the stars? Why not try to aim higher? If you've only been on here for what, a few years, I don't really see how that's something to boast about. Now, on the other hand, I will say that in your youth, if you make the right decisions, you can lead yourself to a beautiful life. And that's why I think it's important to hold the hand of God and to follow in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, because the Bible actually has a lot of wisdom. And you could avoid so many mistakes in your youth. So on that end, I would say yes, there is a beauty in youth as well. Because if you make the right decisions in your youth, and you're also learning, stories, sorry, not stories, you're learning lessons, right? So if you're learning those lessons in your youth and you're making the right decisions, which we're all going to make mistakes at some point. We all do. We all have. Right? And that's why we should be patient with the younger generations, because they're just living the life that we already lived. But if you make the right decisions in your youth, you can really, it can lead you to a really beautiful life. So that's one aspect of youth that I think is a good thing. But to just cling on to youth for the sake of clinging on to youth, I think is a very unhealthy mentality. It's kind of strange. This obsession with youth is kind of strange. Because ever since I was a kid, like I said, I always thought gray hair was beautiful. And I've seen plenty of elderly people that are beautiful. So age has nothing to do with beauty. Very little. And I mean real beauty. I don't mean superficial, like, celebrity type beauty. I'm talking about beauty that comes from the inside and radiates outward. That's the kind of beauty people should strive for, if they strive for beauty. And this is coming from somebody who's an artist and who loves beauty. Anyways, end the recording.